That has got a good amount of heat. That kind of took my breath away, I'm not gonna lie. The flavor on this is something special. Okay, whiskey fam, sit down and grab a dram and listen to the soothing sounds of your boy Whiskey One review some whiskey. So we have another very rare bourbon with all of you guys. And if you've ever heard of the William Larue Weller, you know that one, it's hard to come by, and two, it is very special. Some say the best bourbon that you can get your hands on. And this is a loaner by my good friend John K. So a quick shout out to John. We really appreciate the support that you're throwing to the channel. And this is honestly about as good as you can get to support the channel. This is a ultra rare bottle, and we're gonna get into some thoughts about whether you should pay secondary, whether you should chase it, and what's in store if you get it. Now, this is also a fresh uncorking. So one of the cool things about this is that this is my first time trying it and a fresh uncorking. So without further ado, let's get into it. The William Larue Weller. Some say this is the pinnacle of bourbon. You get your hands on this, if you can find it, you're gonna be tasting a little bit of heaven. Now, I myself have not tried it. Not the William Larue Weller. I've tried a core range of the Wellers. That was fantastic. If you get the chance, I highly recommend that you see that video. We shot it with Daniel Warren from the Albuquerque Whiskey Society. We're gonna tag it up here. And you know, our thoughts on it was each bottle was something special. Brought something unique, something different to the party, if you will. Now, with this one, because it's so rare, we wanted to include it in that video because my friend Daniel has a bottle, I have a bottle, but we thought, you know, this is something that needs to be shared or talked about on its own because it is so rare and it is so special. But I would certainly like to see, what is this all about? What is the hype all about? Because this is certainly something that you're gonna hear a lot of hype around, right? Whoo, that nose. Honestly, I could smell it as soon as I poured it. From about 2 feet away, you could get all these aromas of cherry and vanilla. Feels like cherry cola, honestly. But on the nose, wow. You ever smell something that piqued your interest so much that you started salivating and you almost started wanting to like take a bite out of it? This feels like it's gonna be a chewy whiskey. And if you guys know what I'm talking about, it's basically something that feels rich and dense to the point where you feel like you're really chewing on the whiskey. Swishing around on the palate, can't get enough of it. But on the nose, certainly get good dense layers of cherry. And this is a wheated bourbon. So for all of you guys that may not know what a wheated bourbon is, it's just essentially your highest grain is corn in your mash bill, and then your second highest grain within the mash is gonna be wheat. Some particularly like wheated bourbons as opposed to other bourbons, just because it feels a little bit more quote unquote smooth, 100%. A little easier, more approachable. But me personally, I feel like it depends who's making that wheated bourbon. For the most part, most of my experiences with wheated bourbons tend to be a little bit more citrusy, like got a little bit more orange peel, orange zest. For some reason, you know, some feel that way, but this as a wheated bourbon feels a little bit more cherry forward, more fruity, and definitely a little bit more approachable, especially on the nose. Now this is bottled at 62.35%, and this is the most recent release that was out. I believe this is a 2022 bottle. And beyond that, there's not a lot of disclosed information. But what I can tell you is this is made by Buffalo Trace, also referred to as part of the BTAC collection, or the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, for those of you not really sure what that means. Only the most special bourbons make it, and they get included as part of that BTAC collection. But let's get into this taste because I'm really curious as to what I'm in for. So cheers. Okay. Give me a minute, folks. That has got a good amount of heat. That has got a lot of flavor. And when you mix in the heat and the intensity of the flavor, that kind of took my breath away. I'm not gonna lie. I almost didn't even want to swallow it because I got a lot of dancing on the tongue. I got a lot of heat, but I got a lot of intensity. It's almost like, you know what you're in for when you get to the top of a roller coaster and you're looking down and you see the depth, you see the height, and you thought you knew how high it was until you look down and then you realize, no, we're a lot higher than I thought. Now, the flavor on this is something special. I can see and understand why so many folks are in love with this bottle. And I haven't even begun to share with you like what it is. But you ever try something that you knew that as soon as you tasted it, it took the words out of your mouth? Like, it was hard to explain just how special, how tasty that thing was. I'm gonna have to take a second sip. I'm not gonna lie. So here we go. Let me take my second sip and then share with you the tasting notes. Okay. Yeah. Taking a second sip, maybe not trying to judge anything on that initial sip is probably the best thing because now my palate is acclimated. It's not as hot. It's not as warming. That second sip, it draws you in like a nice invitation to a party. And what you do get is a lot of cherry. You get, well, you don't get as much oak as expected. You do get baking spices, but they're very subtle. It almost feels like it's a chatter or a little bit of a conversation at the very back of the party. It's there, it's just not what you mostly hear, right? But you get vanilla, you definitely get a little bit of leather, so it makes me wonder if this has got a lot of older stock in it. I'm sure it does, but it feels so balanced. It feels like everything is in its place. Everything is where it should be. Man, I need to take another sip because this is truly, truly inviting. Right away, I need to tell you guys, you get a bottle of this and you know you're gonna pour it, just don't make any plans the rest of the day. Clear out the schedule, relax, chill out with this thing. You're gonna be in a moment. You might actually call up some friends afterwards just to brag about what you got. This is very nice. I could see why so many people talk about it. It is such a classic KSB, Kentucky Straight Bourbon, that it's what you expect, but it's a whole lot more. It's a whole lot extra. You know, if you have a scale of 1 to 10, you're gonna wanna rate this as an 11. Because again, when I taste it, when I think about what it is that I'm experiencing, I just feel like this is a special moment. I'm gonna give another shout out to John because he could have easily have just kept this bottle to himself. The way he got it was he's part of a local liquor store group. Our local liquor store, Latitudes, the owner's name is Ron, and he regularly has these annual bourbon drafts. It's very different from a lottery system where essentially the more you spend, the more tickets you can get, or the higher the chance of you getting like a lottery. It doesn't guarantee you anything. You can still spend a lot of money and end up with nothing or not quite the bottle that you anticipated. But what I really like about the draft system is, yes, the more you spend, the more higher you get bumped up to the list. And essentially, as people start picking bottles, you know what's left to choose from, and you know, the higher your likelihood of getting the bottle that you're looking for, because you're going through a draft, similar to like an NFL draft, right? And we really like that system. It's very transparent. Everybody kind of gets to see where they're at. You don't get to see how much anybody spent, but you certainly get to see like your ranking, you know, as compared to other people. A very fair system. I certainly like that over some of the other systems that are out there, like lottery. For example, Total Wine has a system where, yes, the more you spend, you get added or thrown into a draw, but you don't really get to see what you won until the end. And you don't know what others have won, right? You're just kind of given an email to let you know what you won, and that's about it. And it's usually based on several picks that you have. So you could pick your most preferred bottle, you know, all the way down the line to your least preferred. And again, you don't really know what you're gonna get, and sometimes people draw goose eggs. They don't really get anything, which kind of sucks considering how much you might have spent that year. Now, as far as who does this speak to, I think it's kind of obvious at this point, but the whiskey connoisseur is who I recommend this bottle for. You know, those that are gonna take the time to appreciate something like this, and they're gonna do their due diligence, and they're gonna earn their whiskey. So that's how I feel that this is speaking to the connoisseur. It's just a phenomenal whiskey. And like I said, the flavors are all there. Classic Kentucky straight bourbon. Those of you that have tried it, you know what you're into. It's just a whole lot more of it. So for those of you guys that are new to the channel, we highly, encourage you guys to consider subscribing. Hit that like button or comment. Let us know what your thoughts are. And if you've tried the William Larue Weller, I would love to hear your thoughts, especially on if you've had a chance to get it. Now, if you're a return sipper, thank you so much for continuing to show us love and supporting our channel. Consider becoming a Patreon. It would go a long way and certainly mean that much more to us and help the channel grow that much more. So for you that are watching, welcome. And here at Whiskey One, it's about the one you enjoy. Cheers.